This is Dewan L. Hearn, more affectionately known as the Moon. In this episode of the Moon Eagles Wrestling Podcast, I'm reviewing this really big wrestling weekend, at least most of it. You know, sometimes life just gets in the way. I don't know what to tell you. For the 3.5 people that watch this show, hello, I am the Moon. Again, more obviously not here as often as I should be. I really am working on getting better. Wrestling is better. There's a lot more wrestling to talk about, and here I am to talk about it, not like everybody else. That's kind of my thing. Before we get into it, if you're watching this right now, hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel would be dope. I appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll reward it by actually being more present. Most of it has to do with uh, feeling purpose in doing this. Primarily, I do it because I like to talk about wrestling. Who better to talk to than random people who may or may not be actually present on the other end of this camera? That's cool. It's cool because in the end, I enjoy talking about it, and that's where the fun comes in. But if you can, like, subscribe, that's dope. If you want to see other stuff that I do, because there's a whole lot that I'm getting involved in, then you're going to want to go to my website, DewanLHearn.com. All of my stuff is there. All the things I've done previously are there, except for the radio show. That's not present. I don't know how to find that. That was a long time ago. But yeah, I like to get involved in stuff, and there might be some future projects on this particular channel. So this channel, this Moon Media channel, is not just for this wrestling show. It's going to be the platform upon which I do all of my stuff, and hopefully soon I will have in the works a movie-related conversation project. Should be about 3 to 5 episodes. We'll see how that plays out. Once that's more cut and dry, I'll talk about it on everything that I do here. Also, you can go find the Sako in the Moon channel. That's Sako, Sako, Sako in the Moon. And that's the other podcast that I do. If you go to DewanLHearn.com, you'll find links to that under media. Now, that's out of the way. This was a really big weekend for professional wrestling. This weekend past Labor Day weekend, end of August, beginning of September, or as I prefer to call it, unofficial October. We are in what I call the 61 days of October. There was no better way of starting it off than with professional wrestling. It's a lot. There was a show here in Louisville, Kentucky for TNA. The TNA Emergence show was here live in Louisville, Kentucky. I did not get a chance to go. That was on the 31st. That was my wife's birthday. And, you know, you got to be home. You got to do house stuff. You got to be there with your wife. That's more important. But on Saturday, so that was Friday. Saturday, we had started the day off with Bash in Berlin. On Sunday, we end the weekend off with NXT No Mercy. Those two shows I did get a chance to watch, and those are what we're talking about. Now, if you've watched anything else I've done, then you know I'm not going to sit here and give you detailed play-by-play on who won what matches and all that kind of stuff that's actually on this piece of paper. But there are some things of note, and upon my reflections, these are my thoughts. Go ahead and get this out of the way. I am not as familiar with Julia as a lot of people are. Here soon, I will be looking into Julia. And that's one of the things I kind of want to do here soon. I want to look into different wrestlers and just kind of get an idea. I want to share my thoughts on their current program, where they've come from, where they fit in the grand scheme of professional wrestling. But kind of look at them at almost like character profiles, like wrestling character profiles, and my thoughts and feelings on those profiles. So that's what I want to do here soon. I'll start recording some of those here later. Got some pretty big projects to work on beforehand, but after that, we're going to be rolling on this. Pretty cool. So I have about 7 points that I want to bring up. Nothing going to be super long. I'm not going to hold you, but I figure this 5-minute open should be able to knock out most of the intro. 5 minutes is pretty good for an intro. I like to think. So now that the 5 minutes are over, we're going to get into business. This is a lot of both shows, Bash in Berlin and No Mercy, but I'm not going to lie to you. I enjoyed No Mercy a lot more than I enjoyed Bash in Berlin. And I liked Bash in Berlin. Bash in Berlin was, what did I do with there? Had, what, 5 matches on it? Yeah. And those 5 matches were great. Um, I'm not going to talk about the strap match. It's a strap match. Punk won. Um, I will add this as a bonus. The Cody Kevin Owens match, that was good. It was good. The wrestling was good. The story was okay. And my problem with that story is we're starting off by telling the story that KO can't pull the trigger when we all know that KO can pull the trigger. They alluded to this on SmackDown beforehand, and they were talking about how KO doesn't want this title victory to be tainted because Cody's injured, he has a knee injury, and if KO takes advantage of it, he didn't beat Cody at 100%, and he doesn't want that tainting his victory. We kind of caught a glimpse of how KO feels about that at the end of that match when Cody went to like hug him or whatnot, and he kind of just like shrugged it off. There's going to be some dissension. This is just a part one in this ongoing story. I feel like there will be more to this. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if there wasn't. I'll be a little disappointed though. We should know better. Boy, we should know better. On the business. From NXT, if you want to see an example of someone looking strong in defeat, Tony D'Angelo. North American Championship, Tony D'Angelo versus Obafemi. Great match. Great match showing power, strength, and talent of Tony D'Angelo. Anyone who knows me personally, that's been following my thoughts and feelings on wrestling, know that I was not a Tony D fan. I didn't like Tony D'Angelo. I thought the gimmick, hey, come on. I thought that was stupid. And I did not like Tiffany Stratton. Not a fan of Tiffany Stratton. As we know now, I am a huge fan of Tiffany Stratton. And I have become a good fan of Tony D'Angelo. Not gonna lie. It took some time to work out the kinks, but I think that's what we were doing in NXT right now. NXT, especially coming out of 2.0, really had to find its footing again. You've already established some 2.0 stuff. You have to let it naturally shake out and then re-establish roots. And I think that's what Tony D'Angelo, the Tony D'Angelo family, Tiffany Stratton, Chase U, for example, not on the list of things to talk about, but Chase U did the same thing. Wasn't a big fan of Chase U. I didn't really like Andre Chase. I didn't really care. But they really won me over. Having Duke Hudson join that group and not turn has blown my mind. I was guaranteeing that Duke Hudson was going to turn on that group long time ago. Now he actually has a place. And Duke Hudson is on TV every single week. This was a great place for Duke Hudson, even though it made no sense for the character he had when he debuted. I love the turnaround. I love the fact that we're allowing people to grow and figure out stuff. And then when it works, you just say, screw it, leave it there. It's working. Like adjusting the TV back in the 90s. When you got the antenna in just the right spot, you're like, no one touches the TV antenna. This is about Tony D. Tony D'Angelo has incredibly improved with the rivalries with Hayes, the rivalry with Dragunov, the rivalry with Williams, and this this particular match with Obafemi. I don't know what you do now that he has lost. I was hoping I would get answers last night on NXT, but they're changing networks soon. So maybe they're letting everything kind of simmer right now for the network changes. They're going over to CW starting next week. No, after next week. Is it after next week? Yes. Next week, as of the recording of this, which is September the 4th. Next week, all three shows will be on the USA Network. They're making kind of a big deal about it. And then after that, they're going to be switching to their new network home of the CW for NXT. Netflix is going to get Raw. The CW's got NXT, and USA has SmackDown, which is fine to me. Tony D's looked incredible. And I think once the switches happened, we were settled on our new network, we got our new fans, we got our things level, Tony D needs to be NXT champion. I'm not necessarily saying that he's going to be the face of NXT, but I wouldn't be mad if he was. Tony D deserves something. Even if it's just a run at this North American Championship and somehow Tony D finds a way of beating Omafemi, do it. I think if someone's going to beat Oba, I am perfectly fine with it being Tony D'Angelo. He showed up and showed out and was basically showing off on Sunday at No Mercy. And I'm here for it. I'm here for that. But speaking of the North American Championship, but this is more so the Women's North American Championship, I'd like to know, what are we doing next? I have no issue with Kalani Jordan. I have no immediate issue with her character. I think she is establishing roots. She's establishing roots to create a foundation for this championship. And that's great. But what next? I mean, we're going to do some more with the Wendy Choo thing. Is the Wendy Choo thing switching to a Tatum Paxley rivalry? I think Kalani is doing something with Fatal Influence. That's fine. But I'd like to know what's next. If the Fatal Influence is the direction we're going with Kalani Jordan and Lola Vice, and then whoever else they can get to go along with them, does that mean we're going to drop the title to Jacy Jane, Fallon Henley, Jasmine Nix? If I had to pick one of those two or one of those three, it would be Fallon Henley. I like Fallon better. I think Fallon has shown herself in the ring better than the other three. Toxic Attraction was one of my favorite girl groups in wrestling for the last 10 years or so. So I'm cool if it ends up being Jacy Jane, but I think the real solo should be Fallon Henley. I think Jacy Jane and Nix work really well together as a tag team. Jacy Jane in this little top position here can take Jasmine Nix as her under her wing as the protege. It kind of already is. And that works in a tag team setting a lot better than I think it would elsewhere. So I just want to know that it's a clear program for not just Kalani Jordan. This has less to do with Kalani Jordan than it does the actual title. I want to see what's going on with this title. The title is brand new. It needs a title history. It needs a title history that's respectable. So having the first champion hold it for a while and retain it and defend it and retain it, great. These are good moves. But there does need to be movement. That is one of the things I love about championships in the WWE now. They are moving. Just since WrestleMania, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest, and Gunther have been the World Heavyweight Champion. Since the first day of WrestleMania, 4 different men have been World Heavyweight Champion. One lost it after holding it for a while. Priest won it after beating Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre has a little story. He'll get it soon. It's fine. Calm down. But then you got the things with Gunther. He's doing good with the belt. I think it's the natural move for him. The titles are moving. The women's tag team championships. We'll talk about those here in a bit. But those tag team titles, they're moving. Both tag team sets of championships on both shows are moving. Belts are moving again. This is one of the biggest complaints I had about WWE prior to WrestleMania. And I think they were waiting for WrestleMania to be that reset. That's perfectly fine. But now that championships are moving, Rhea, then Lynch, then Morgan, good. It's fantastic. Titles are moving. Let's keep it that way. In that same vein, I need this North American Women's Championship to move as well. I think Kalani's doing a good job. This is not a condemnation of Kalani Jordan, but I need the title to do something. There's going to be movement with this belt. Those are my thoughts. Now, speaking of championships and championship matches and championship contenders and championships moving, do not screw up Jada Parker. The case of Jada Parker is a curious one for me because you put Jada Parker in a position to face Roxanne Perez, who again I will be mentioning later, but she didn't win. That's cool. That fits the Perez story. Leave it be. But what are we doing with that? Because she had a chance to win that North American Championship, Women's North American Championship, but she didn't do it. Okay. I need something more from the story of Jada Parker. It's just me. I feel like we're walking the same path we did with LA Knight, a very similar path to what we walked with Triple H way back in the 90s. I feel like, quick story. When I started watching professional wrestling, I was still trying to figure it out. I didn't have anybody with me teach me pro wrestling. I was still trying to figure out, how does this guy on commentary know what those moves are called? How does he know the difference? Now I can call them before they happen. Wrestling has happened. I've learned in the last 25, 30 years. 25 is that right? At that period of time, Triple H was always like the number 2 contender. There'd be a title match on pay-per-view, you'd come to Raw, and if you had to put somebody in a random championship match, it was Triple H. He always lost. But there he was. He was Triple H. It's that dude. And I feel like that did a little bit of damage to Triple H at that time. And we did the same thing with LA Knight recently. Before he got this United States Championship, we kept putting him in line to be a top guy. He was super popular. He was super over. And it was time to put a belt on him. And we didn't. We kept not putting a championship belt on the guy. I don't understand why it took that long. I don't want us to do the same thing with a star like Jada Parker. Is she the number 1 star, female star on NXT? Probably not, but she's top 3 and she's not number 3. I would put Perez and Parker. I'm trying to think, is there another female star, not including Julia, who can be marketed in the same light as Perez? Perez is number 1. That's why she's the NXT Women's Champion. We're all good. But I can't think of another one that when she comes out, it's like, all right, everyone's sold. The woman is gold. Now she needs gold. I would have no problem if she was lining up, follow, go from Kalani Jordan to Fallon Henley, and then Fallon Henley drops to the Jada Parker. If we got a path, we're good. I'm cool with a path. Let's just have a path and make sure that path seems solid. Because why Parker did not seem weak in her defeat, I mean, it was a crazy match. Jada Parker doesn't look weak at all, but I feel like we're doing that same thing with LA Knight where we line them up for championships. We show that they're just not ready. And I think that's so far from the truth and unfair to Jada Parker. I'll skip my order on my page because I've already talked about Perez so much. So let's go ahead and just go with that route. Perez, Roxanne Perez, the NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne Perez. This is how a heel champion should be booked. This is exactly it. On paper, perfectly booked champion. Here's why. One, she looks strong. She's able to take any competition, bigger than her, smaller than her, doesn't matter, and she wins. And for the most part, she wins clean. Is she a badass? Yeah. Is she the bad guy? Yeah. Is she the heel? Obviously. Is she champion? Of course. Is she proving that she actually deserves to be champion? Yes. Yes, she is. She's proving that she deserves to be champion by beating these people clean. She's not going through underhanded tactics and clubbing them with chairs when the referee's backs are turned and then turning around and doing her little move real quick and winning her match. No. She's winning clean. And she does that more often than not. She's not stealing title matches from people by holding the ropes or whatever dumb stuff like that. She beat Jada Parker clean, and she looked so strong in it. Both women walked out of that match looking great, but Perez looks like that champion. She turns around in her promos and says, "I'm that woman." She shows it in the ring, and that is how I love my heel champions. Heel champion that says they're fucking awesome and shows it, and they cannot be denied. Hate them because they're right. I love that. Now, Orton and Gunther, slight complaint here. That match moves slow. I wanted more from it, but it moved slow for me. It wasn't a bad match. It just moved slow for me. And I kind of wanted more. And I have an issue with the finish. I get the finish, but I have an issue with it. Randy was basically destroying Gunther, and then all of a sudden he got a fluke sleeper in, lost it, reestablished, and then knocked out Randy Orton. I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel like Gunther deserved a bit more of a build to his win. Gunther was going to win. We're not debating who won. Gunther was going to win, but I wanted something more from that. I wanted Gunther to pull a Perez and just show off, I am that good. I can come back from these deficits. I can be that great. As far as their championship showings, I'd say Perez did it better than Gunther did this weekend. You can fight me in the comments if you want to. That's cool with me. I'll engage in good faith. But I don't know. The way the match went for most of the match was fine. It was perfectly good. Great for main event. It showed the power usage of both competitors. Gunther playing the arm, shoulder, elbow injury through the match. Fantastic. Just didn't like the way this ending played out. And I don't know. I wasn't as sold. I wasn't as sold. Nothing wrong. Just didn't like it. Wasn't for me. Just wasn't for me. What's next? All right. Two more things. I'll let you guys go. Let's roll. The women's tag team championship match. The titles are back home with the two of the big three, um, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. The titles are back where they should be, and now we can utilize this championship title reign to to show more from Jada or from Jade. From Jade. Um, I don't have a problem with Jade Cargill. I remember watching her as she began that tournament, the TBS Championship Tournament in AEW, and Jade was green, like green, like brand new bananas green. She definitely improved as she won the tournament, won the championship, and defended it however many times she defended it. When she got to her 50-0, actually got to that at about 43, 44-0. She was really starting to show off that she got it. What I didn't like about the TBS division in AEW at that time is I felt like it was all the women who would not otherwise be believable with the AEW Women's Championship. And it was a bad look to me on that title. Currently, you're dealing with your Statlanders and you're dealing with your Willow Nightingales, and those are two women you cannot deny. Britt Baker was contending. Mercedes Monet is your champion now. These are women that cannot be denied. And I'm hoping that we do some more moving in. Now that we have Jamie Hayter back, great. That division has improved. And that started with Jade Cargill. But everyone still wants to hate on Jade Cargill. She's learning the system. She's figuring it out. She's figuring out her place in a tag team when your tag team partner is Bianca Belair. We all know I'm a fan of Belair. I wear the Belair t-shirt periodically. Say we just got Jurassic Park. That's what I pulled out. And Belair having a steady tag team partner is a new space for Belair. But she's worked with people the entire time she's been here. So she's not new to this. This is brand new for Jade. This is great. This is what Jade needs in the WWE. I just want her to hold a stronger spot and show off more sole purpose to silence the haters. That's it. Now that Jade has the titles back, people are going to hate on her and hate on her some more. And then hate on her some more after that. And it's about time we kind of squash that noise. So let's give credibility to Jade Cargill and let's pause on any kind of heel turn. We're not ready. We're not there yet. But now let's let Jade do the working in the ring, a hot tag to Bianca on the regular, so that Jade has a time to shine and shut people up. Wrestling fans are hard to convince. You have to convince them in the ring. So let's do that. The belts are back on Jade. The belts are back on Bianca. Let Jade show off. You say she's ready. You say she's ready. She wants to be ready. Let's show people that she's ready. Let's show off. I don't think there's anything else I really wanted to tap on before this last point. Yeah, the Ridge Holland heel turn was obvious. Shout out to Julia. I'm not going to go into the Zachary Wentz thing. I guess we're past it, but that's a very interesting point of contention. Maybe it's a video I'll deal with on a later date. Maybe I just won't bother. But Zachary Wentz got the win at Emergence. He's your new X Division champion. He got the win against Wes Lee. So he's winning in TNA. He's winning in NXT. The Rascals are your number one contenders now for your NXT Tag Team Championships. So I guess the IWC is looking past what took Vince out of WWE in the first place, hey, you know, if we're dropping it, we're dropping it. But that's a very interesting conversation to have, considering how finicky the IWC. So maybe a point of contention. Maybe I'll wait until I have a guest to bounce some ideas off of. But the wins conversation is a conversation I probably will be having. Hold on. Maybe that would be one of the character profiles I do. We'll talk about it. And if you don't know, I won't tell you here. Find another voice. Last and not least, speaking of wins, that's why I'm leading with that. The TNA partnership with NXT is working for me. Working greatly for me. You have stars like Wentz and Hendry who were on both shows, Emergence on Friday in Louisville, Kentucky, and then they were both in Denver, Colorado for No Mercy. And this works. This partnership is working. And I'm kind of hoping that the TNA partnership can expand outside of NXT. Now, I understand if it stays isolated. The reason why I'm cool with it staying isolated at the same time as I want it to go further is that this is working out for both sides. I don't care who you are out there in the IWC. You can argue in the comments or argue with your mama. I don't really care who. But the partnership is working. You may not like Joe Hendry, but like in my house, we've replaced the phrase "speak of the devil" with "say his name and he appears." I can do this in front of my kids, and they know exactly why I did that. Like, that's fine. I have friends who I've talked to. 2 claps. You now can associate a wrestler with 2 claps. That's great. That's great for Joe Hendry. And that's great for any and every show he is on. The fact that he is a TNA wrestler versus being an NXT WWE contracted wrestler is that he can show up on Emergence for NXT or for TNA on Friday. He can show up on NXT's No Mercy. He can show up on Maple Leaf Wrestling, whatever Scott D'Amore is doing, if he wants, because that's the TNA contracts. You have someone in professional wrestling, Joe Hendry, who is surpassing wrestling. I love it. He's not just a top name in his company. He was fighting for the championship in another company. Jordan Grace last night on NXT announced that she was going to defend the TNA Women's Championship for the first time ever on NXT television when they go over to CW. No, next week. It's next week for the USA show. That's huge. That's huge. Because here's what happens. You see people like Zachary Wentz tag teaming with Trey Miguel to become number 1 contenders for the NXT Tag Team Championships. You see Joe Hendry fighting Ethan Page for the NXT Championship. You see Jordan Grace defending her own championship from one company in another. You see Wendy Chu from NXT drawing and summoning Rosemary, one of my favorite female wrestlers in TNA, Rosemary, to fight her battles for her. Give Rosemary a win here and there, please, thank you. And why can we not use the decay music? I need the decay music on NXT. Thank you very much. Does this hurt the current roster in NXT? Because these are spots that NXT wrestlers are not getting. That's going to be a lot of the thought that people are having. And my short answer, no. Because ultimately, what you need before you have a spot, your spot has to exist and your spot has to matter. This is my personal opinion when it comes to wrestling. Before you can worry about your spot, two things have to be before you, as I just said. Your spot has to exist and your spot has to matter. You can't worry about a women's division if you don't have one. And if you have one, having one doesn't matter if no one cares. So that's why it's important that we're utilizing these names that are established. Rosemary is established. Hendry is established. Jordan Grace is established. Probably one of the most over women in professional wrestling, period. I mean, we're looking at it. I would say, looking at the field of professional wrestling, the full scope of pro wrestling, the most over women right now, we're looking at your Rhea Ripley's, obvious, your Jordan Grace's, and I can't count Becky Lynch because she's been out for a grip. So I would have to say those are probably your top two. This is no shot at AEW because you have your Britt Bakers, your Mercedes Monets, your Willow Nightingales, your Statlanders, and did I say Brett, your Tony Storms. All of these women are killing it in AEW. Mariah May, your new women's champion, killing it. Getting Saraya back in the limelight, getting her back on task, and what she's doing for Harley Cameron, fantastic. The women's division in pro wrestling on all brands, all shows. WWE main roster, Raw and SmackDown, NXT, TNA, AEW, they're all rocking it. There's some ROH names I'm not as familiar with, but I do know that they're starting to do some work. Your Billy Starks, your Queen Amanada, your Red Velvets, your Athenas. Listen, we're not counting any of these women out. All of these women have a place. And the women's wrestling is killing it right now. But looking at this particular partnership between NXT, TNA, you have Jordan Grace is here in the realm of pro wrestling. And you got that woman defending her championship against one of your people, your open challenge. Who you choose to put against Jordan Grace, even in defeat, will be a highlight. Now, to reference something I said earlier, and then I'll close. Who should answer that open challenge? It needs to be Jada Parker. I hit my microphone. It needs to be Jada Parker. Jada Parker versus Jordan Grace will be a killer match. I love Jordan Grace, and I would not be upset if it doesn't happen. But if that's the championship that Jada Parker wins, you tell an interesting story, which could become problematic. I don't know how to fix it. But I'm cool with her being the TNA Knockouts champion. Then you have her and OTM going back and forth between both shows. Do it. Please do it. You put in a really weird dynamic here because Perez beat Parker and beat Grace, but then Parker beats Grace. Parker could, and that honestly, that just elevates Roxanne Perez as long as you mention it that way. But if you're going to put Perez on this pedestal up here, then allowing everyone else kind of fighting amongst themselves is fantastic. It should actually work. Have Jada Parker beat Jordan Grace. And honestly, I don't care how. You need to protect Jordan Grace by having Ash by Elegance interfere or having someone else interfere and cause the win. That fits Parker's character. She won't care. She doesn't give a damn, which is fine. Jordan Grace then gets protected in that defeat, gets protected in that loss, and we keep the belt on Jada for like a month or two. She deserves gold. And I think this is a great way of highlighting and utilizing the TNA partnership. Now, people keep saying that TNA keeps getting buried, i.e., every time Rosemary goes into the ring, she loses. We start doing this thing where we want to look at the split between the men winning and the women losing. Stop that. In wrestling, there is what wins and losses. Some of them are fair, some of them are not. Some of them are clean, some of them are not. Some of them are for titles, some of them are not. It's fine. It happens. That is wrestling. It'd be a great excuse to give Jordan some time off. It will elevate Jada Parker. And then all she has to do, come back, stand and deliver. If you want to wait that long, come back in the Rumble. I don't care what she does. But then you had, Jada Parker, Knockouts champion, all the way till stand and deliver. Huh. Oh boy. And then you get Jordan Grace at stand and deliver. I'm cool with that. I'll rock with that. So with that, my drink is gone, so am I. So that from Jason. This is Moon Equals Wrestling. I'm Dwan L. Hearn, more affectionately known as the Moon. Visit DwanLHearn.com/shop. There's some cool stuff there. You can get this hat. You can also get the Moon Equals Wrestling logo on the hat, just the same. It's getting started to get cool. So there will be beanies and such as well. But more importantly, we are in that October season. Yes, I know what the calendar says, but we are in October. These are the 61 days of October, starting after August 31st. And right now, you can go on my shop and you can get up a pretty dope Libra t-shirt that I'm currently not wearing. But you can be wearing if you purchase. There's a code. Visit the shop. You'll see it. It's all there on the main page. Moon out.